And hello, Wadsworth, once again. Tommy Maroon here, as usual, for the Tommy Maroon Sports Show, in which we're going to go through a bunch of topics, including the Indians and the Browns, and of course, the Great Suburban League, and of course, our trivia question of the week, as always, coming at you right here. And here it is. What team has the most NFL championships and Super Bowls combined? That's right. We're going to look at NFL championships and Super Bowls and combine them together. What team has the most? The Green Bay Packers do. That's right, the Green Bay Packers is your trivia question answer with 9 NFL championships and 4 Super Bowls, including the first 2 Super Bowls. Now, time to do one of my favorite topics, as you probably know, the Suburban League recap. Alrighty, and there it is on your screen, the scores. A little hard to see maybe, but don't worry, got you covered. In a game at beautiful North Gateway Tire Field, Medina really handled Highland 31-0. Aurora beat CVCA 14-7. Stowe Monroe Falls, to me, they upset Barberton 34-21, while Copley drilled Firestone 52-12. Revere keeping up what's been a nice start, 2-0, beating North 34-7. Marlington hands Roosevelt their first loss of the season, being a 34-10 stomping. Talmadge beats Ellett 33-13. Brecksville Broadview Heights 34, Green 14. Cuyahoga Falls off to a strong start, 2-0, as they beat Springfield now 19-6. You never know, folks, you never know. You never know with a team like Strongsville as well. They picked up a big win on the road against Hudson, 35-28 in overtime. While the Nordonia Knights, they easily beat Woodridge 51-10. Brunswick hammered North Royalton 49-0. Solon hammered Twinsburg 46-6. And Wadsworth ekes out a good one against Worcester 20-17. Boys of the week, they're right there on the right of your screen. Maverick Blackburn for Wadsworth, a 67-yard touchdown strike to Barrett Labus in the second quarter. Excuse me if I mispronounced the names, by the way. Garrett Clark had a 20-yard touchdown run for the Strongsville Mustangs in overtime. That gave them the victory. And number 35 for Brunswick, excuse me that we did not get their names. Couldn't see who it was when looking it up. But a 46-yard touchdown run for him in the second quarter. And Drew Cross, hell boy, did he have a 64-yard missile for a touchdown to Brandon Heigelman for Talmadge in the first quarter, of course, as you could tell. Talmadge had a good game. And now it's time to look at my Week 3 preview. Stowe against Solon. Both teams 2-0 and looking for probably the biggest test of the season so far. Of course, Stowe had a big test against Barberton, but they were able to win by 13. This one should be closer. Wadsworth at Medina. Both teams are 2-0 and looking for a big win. It's at Medina, so we'll see what team falls and what team is triumphant. North Royalton against Highland. The Hornets are looking for their first win. They're trying to get back on track. A pretty talented team. Just 2 tough weeks. Hopefully they can get it over with and look forward to the future. For them, it should start against North Royalton. And, of course, Revere against CVCA. As Revere is looking to stay perfect, so far so good. And CVCA trying to rebound from last week. Alrighty, we are done with the Suburban League. Okay, let's go to the Cleveland Indians. That's right, we're going to put on our Indians hat, excuse me, and look at some hot players. Francisco Lindor's been one of them with a .323 average, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, and 10 hits. Robbie Perez has a .368 batting average, 7 hits, and 5 RBIs. Has done a good job to fill in for Jan Gomes, who, of course, is in Washington, D.C., playing for the Nationals. Of course, the Nationals are having a mighty good season so far with Juan Soto and Anthony Rendon and Gerardo Parra, just to name a few. And Trey Turner, who could possibly forget Trey Turner. And, of course, that big pitching staff with Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, and Patrick Corbin. But time to go back to the Cleveland Indians, because Yasiel Puig, The newly acquired Yasiel Puig doing a good job. Puig 320 average, 8 hits, 3 doubles, and 3 RBIs. And Aaron Savali, of course, that man's been something. There he was in his very first career start. A 1-0 record within these last few starts. 180 ERA, 10 innings, and 8 strikeouts. That man has been absolute fire. Yes, sir. And of course, who could possibly forget Mike Clevenger? Clevenger 1-0, 270 ERA, 13.1 innings, 16 strikeouts, and a 130 opponent average. Time to look at the playoff odds powered by Baseball Reference. After the White Sox series, we had a 44.6% chance at the playoffs, 42.2 at the wild card, 2.4 at the American League Central, 22 at the ALDS, 9.7 at the ALCS, 3.3 at the World Series, and 1.2 to win the World Series. After the Twin Series, some went up, others went down. For instance, what went down was the playoff odds. 36.6% chance at the playoffs, 35.4 at the wild card, 1.2 to win the Central, 19.1 at the ALDS, 8.2 at the ALCS, 4.1 at the World Series, and 1.9 to win the World Series. So, despite the playoff odds being small, at least the World Series odds got bigger. Of course, Baseball Reference is a good place to be for a baseball fan. So, if you're a baseball fan, you might want to check them out. And you might want to check out these series recaps. Indians against the White Sox, we tied that 2-2. Franmil Reyes had a 3-run double for the first game. Carrasco, that's right, Carlos Carrasco was back at Progressive Field the next day on his first appearance since his leukemia diagnosis. And despite so much love and support, he was tagged with 4 runs, including a mammoth game-tying 3-run jack. And then after that, a go-ahead long ball. White Sox won 6-5 as a result. Third game, Oscar Mercado made an incredible diving catch with the bases loaded, 1 out, and the Indians up by 2. Helped give us the victory. And after that, we were 6.5 back of the Twins. Then came the Indians-Twins series. We won that series 2-1. We scored 4 runs in the 11th inning on the first game, including some home runs in the third game by Carlos Santana and Francisco Lindor. So far, we've been doing a good job against those Twins this season. And after that series, we were unfortunately 5.5 back from the Twinkies and 1.5 away from the second wild card. So there's some Cleveland Indian highlights right there. And of course, the Indians-Angels series, it's official. We have won this series. Of course, tonight's going to be another game. We won the first game 6-2, and then we beat the Angels, I believe, 8-0, including a complete game shutout. So congratulations, and we are definitely looking to keep it up and beat the Angels tonight. And as a result, heading into tonight, we are 5 games back of those Twins and hoping to get that division back and half a game back from the second wild card. So for the first time in a few years, the Indians are not out of playoff contention, but they're not going to have it for them, if you know what I mean. They are right in the middle. It's going to be every game counts. We'll see. There's Oakland, there's Tampa, there's Minnesota to look after. Of course, Oakland and Tampa have been big struggles. The Twins haven't been. We'll be having a weekend series against those Twinkies, and let's beat them. That will be our final series against them. I'm pretty nervous. Let's hope we can do it. So let's take this Cleveland Indians hat off. Let's go with the Cleveland Browns. Why not? Because their season started. Some big name players you might want to look out for. Baker Mayfield right there. He's going to be the main quarterback. Nick Chubb, the running back. The second-year running back, just like Baker. Kareem Hunt, who we picked up, he'll be out, suspended for the first 8 games. And our receivers, Odell Beckham Jr., of course, acquired a big trade against the Giants. Might be one of the biggest trades in Cleveland Browns history. You just never know. Baker to Beckham may be a deadly duo. There's also Jarvis Landry, who of course was with the Dolphins until last year when he came with the Browns and did a really good job going from slot receiver to our number one receiver. Now he'll be going back to slot. Of course, Jarvis is a really good one. And there's David Njoku, who, of course, Njoku looking to continue what he does best and be a good tight end. And on the defensive side, there's a lot of them, but I'm just going to get to the chase with Myles Garrett, the first pick in the 2017 NFL Draft. He has done a really good job as that defensive lineman. Denzel Ward, of course, 2018. And, of course, Greedy Williams, a rookie, second rounder for the Cleveland Browns. And Sheldon Richardson, who we have just acquired. That's right, just acquired and hasn't been looking that bad. Final preseason cuts, of course. The preseason is when you make it or you don't. And let's reflect on those guys that didn't make it. Unfortunately, these guys will probably find new homes soon. Seth DeValve, Brian Price, Lindsey Pipkins, Greg Joseph, Ray Armstrong, Carl Davis, and Brian Witzman. Some guys that were able to make it for the Cleveland Browns include Taywan Taylor. There's also Justin McCray, Ricky Seals-Jones, Malik Jefferson, Kadero Hodge, and who could possibly forget the Scottish Hammer, Jamie Gillian. And we're going to go and look at what happened in Week 1. Cleveland Browns, Tennessee Titans, First Energy Stadium. So much excitement for the first time in years. The Cleveland Browns have hype. And then a disappointment. A 43-13 rout for the Titans as they came to Cleveland and they stomped all over us. Baker was all right. 25 for 38, 285 yards, 1 touchdown and 3 picks. All the interceptions were in the fourth quarter. Nick Chubb was also okay. 17 carries, 75 yards, but 0 touchdowns. David Njoku for the Cleveland Browns, of course, had a touchdown reception in the third quarter. Those are some Cleveland Browns highlights. I gotta admit, the first drive was pretty impressive. Unfortunately, it was all downhill from there on. Dontrell Hilliard had a rushing touchdown for the Cleveland Browns in the first quarter, as we'll hopefully get it on this next highlight. Yep, there it is right there. And there he goes up the middle for that touchdown. He definitely got a lot of help from his own line, may I add. And now time to cross the dark side with Tennessee. Derrick Henry has 75-yard touchdown reception in the third quarter. That was a huge one. Austin Seibert misses that PAT, by the way. A.J. Brown for the Titans, 3 receptions, 100 yards. And now time to spit out some facts. The Cleveland Browns have not won Week 1 since 2004 when Jeff Garcia, let me say that again. Jeff Garcia was the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And that was when we beat the Ravens here at First Energy Stadium. But at the time, it was called Cleveland Browns Stadium. All right, time to take off this Browns hat as we are done for the week, unfortunately. So we'll see you next time, but before we sign off, as usual, we got to talk about what's happening soon. We're going to look at the Cleveland Browns, of course, the Cleveland Indians and the postseason, the Suburban League, NBA, and the NHL as those seasons are just about to be underway. And, of course, the NBA has definitely been wild. It has definitely been crazy. So we'll see what happens. Of course, my trivia question of the week. How many NFL championships do the Cleveland Browns have? That's right. How many NFL championships do the Cleveland Browns have? Of course, we all know the Browns have never gone to the Super Bowl, but they have won a few NFL championships. How many do they have? Why, do you know? Well, I'll review it next week. That's why you should always watch the Tommy Maroon Sports Show. So you always get some trivia and always get stats. Till then, so on.